People from the true dragon clan? Long Luzi? Hearing Long Luzi's name, Lindong and the others were shocked. They hadn't expected this young man named Long Luzi to be from the true dragon clan. However, thinking about it, it wasn't too surprising. After all, the true dragon clan's royal relics were guarded by their people, so this wasn't something too hard to comprehend. Yet, the one most astonished was Elder Song. His shock wasn't about Long Luzi's origin, but about Long Luzi himself. Long Luzi. Could it be that you're the one from the true dragon clan, praised as the most talented of the younger generation in 1,000 years, and have already become the candidate to be the next clan leader? Elder Song looked at Long Luzi in shock, while Lindong and the others were even more astonished. It seemed this Long Luzi's background was far greater than they'd imagined. Some things are just exaggerated. As for being the most talented in 1,000 years, I don't dare to claim such a title. Long Luzi smiled and said, "Hee, just as humble as the rumors say." Elder Song chuckled lightly. "Lindong, earlier I heard you were curious about how the chasm outside, which separates everything, was formed, right?" Long Luzi looked at Lindong, then pointed behind him. "The ancestors are just beyond the dragon pillar. If it's just some questions you'd like to ask, I can allow you to have a chat with the ancestors. As for the other three, if there's nothing else, they can leave." Hearing this, He Luo King and the others exchanged glances. They understood Long Luzi's words. If this were an unclaimed relic of the true dragon clan, they could continue exploring. But now, with a member of the true dragon clan present, this dragon space wasn't just a discovered relic, but an officially governed one. "Am I the only one allowed to go?" Lindong asked, and Long Luzi responded with a faint smile, clearly indicating his consent. Elder Song spoke up, "This is the most outstanding young member of the true dragon clan. There shouldn't be any issues. Let's follow Long Luzi's lead and leave for now. It's a matter of respect for the true dragon clan's king." Yin nodded in agreement and said to Lindong, "In that case, big brother, we'll return to the martial realm. The Sun Elder and the others should be back at the Sun God Temple by now. What happened there will likely enrage them, so it's time for us to return and stabilize things in the martial realm. After all, only Elder Fenyunzi and the others will have some difficulty dealing with it." "Did you just say that while you were luring the Sun Elder and the others out, you also dispatched other powerful forces to deal with the 3 major factions at the Sun God Temple?" He Luo King asked in confusion. "Just giving them a lesson," Lindong said to Yin and Elder Song. Then he waved his hand, and a dark golden mini-platform, about the size of a palm, appeared. It was the divine artifact, the heavenly platform. After taking it out, Lindong handed it to Yin, saying, "When we get back to the martial realm, find materials and make more ancestral stones according to the model of the ancestral stone. As for quality, mid-grade spiritual weapons are enough. The more, the better." "I understand." Yin took the heavenly platform and immediately stored it away. Though he didn't know why Lindong wanted to make so many ancestral stones, he figured it must be related to some agreement with the Black Spirit clan. "Don't worry, I'm just going to check on a few things with that old senior. It won't take long. I might even catch up with you," Lindong said. Meanwhile, Long Luzi flicked his finger, and a distorted space appeared not far away. "I've decided to go to your martial realm first," He Luo King said as the distorted space formed. "Since you dealt with the 3 major factions at the Sun God Temple, they won't let it slide. So I'll go help you maintain order." "Thank you, Senior He Luo King," Lindong expressed his gratitude. "All right, let's leave first," Elder Song said, then swiftly moved and entered the distorted space. Yin and He Luo King followed right behind him. Buzz. The 3 of them disappeared into the distorted space, and the distortion gradually settled down and disappeared. Seeing this, Lindong understood that Elder Song and the others should have already returned to the dragon bones at the seabed outside. "Please," Long Luzi said to Lindong after the others left. He made an inviting gesture and then moved toward the golden dragon pillar. Long Luzi and Lindong's figures swept across the towering mountain peaks, with all the giant dragons along the way instinctively avoiding them, clearing a path. Clearly, this was due to Long Luzi's intimidation. As for Lindong and his companion, they followed this path and arrived at a massive dragon pillar standing in the center of the dragon space. "Ancestor, I've brought Lindong to see you." Upon reaching the top of the dragon pillar, Long Luzi respectfully bowed to the elderly figure sitting atop it and spoke. Behind him, Lindong's figure also slowly descended. As Lindong landed at the top of the dragon pillar, he gazed at the elderly figure seated there. The illusionary figure and frail aura caused Lindong to squint slightly. He found it strange. If this person was truly the Dragon King of the True Dragon, although his power might have been exhausted, there should still be a presence akin to the majestic authority of a Dragon Emperor. But as Lindong stood before him, he felt no such aura. However, judging from Long Luzi's attitude, Lindong was certain that this illusory and ancient figure was indeed the true Dragon King from ancient times. "I am Lindong, paying my respects to the Dragon King ancestor," Lindong said respectfully, bowing to the true Dragon King. "You are the Lindong who came from the lower dimension?" The true Dragon King, seeing Lindong, asked. "I've already heard of you from Luzi, and I'm somewhat familiar with your past experiences." "I admire you," the true Dragon King said, gesturing for Lindong to sit. He then turned to Long Luzi and said, "Luzi, you sit as well? There's no need for formalities." "Well then, I shall obey your command." Lindong, upon hearing this, glanced at Long Luzi and then sat down directly in front of the true Dragon King. Long Luzi also smiled and sat down beside him. "Luzi, I haven't asked you yet. Earlier, you went to ask Lindong about his purpose. What was it?" the true Dragon King asked. Upon hearing the true Dragon King's words, Lindong was stunned and looked at him with confusion. After all, someone of the true Dragon King's level, even if dead, would not lose their terrifying perception ability. With such power, even if they were separated by millions of miles, the conversation between him and Long Luzi should have been clearly heard. But now, the true Dragon King seemed unaware of their conversation, which was puzzling. "Heh, I know what you're thinking," the true Dragon King said with a smile as Lindong's confusion appeared on his face. "What I can tell you is that my power, my pressure, and even my ability to perceive were all separated from my consciousness during the world-ending war. The one who made a move was an existence beyond the heavens from the Extraterritorial evil clan. Separated my consciousness from all my powers." Lindong's expression changed as he was shocked. The true Dragon King's words seemed too abstract, and could someone really achieve such a thing? But if it were true, Lindong could probably understand why the true Dragon King had fallen. The being from the Extraterritorial evil clan who transcended the heavens. Who exactly were they, to be able to use such a nearly impossible method to slay a true Dragon King, someone comparable to the perfected Earth Supreme? So, the figure you see before you is only a consciousness, with no power left, not to mention any ability to perceive, the true Dragon King continued. "My separated body lies outside. You should have seen it. Ancestor, your answer to him is precisely the reason he came here," Long Luzi remarked. "What's this about? He came here just to figure out how I died." The true Dragon King sighed helplessly. "A normal person would want to seek something from me, like power inheritance or something. Although I really want to receive your inheritance, I don't dare to disrespect the true Dragon Clan in such a casual manner," Lindong replied. "You're an honest one. However, when it comes to inheritance, I can only tell you this. I would love to pass on my millennia of hard work to you younger generations, but up to now, the true Dragon Clan has sent over 100 inheritors, and none of them have been able to obtain that inheritance," the true Dragon King explained. "This has become one of the ancestors' regrets," Long Luzi added helplessly. "Could it be related to the methods used by that transcendent being from the Extraterritorial evil clan?" Lindong asked. "Is it because the inheritance was sealed by them?" "They only sealed away the most important things," the true Dragon King said, pointing to the surrounding world and the dragon pillar below. "All the dragons scattered throughout this space are formed from my essence blood. Over the past millennia, even those of the true Dragon Clan, despite using all their means, have been unable to access the two grand paths I once possessed. Two broad roads." Upon hearing this, Lindong immediately recalled something. It was the 12 great paths that the sacred drum Heavenly Sovereign had mentioned. Upon thinking about this, Lin Dong quickly realized something even more terrifying. Of course, this was just a guess, and Lin Dong knew he had to confirm it. "Excuse me, Senior Dragon Emperor, which two broad roads are you referring to?" Lin Dong quickly asked the true Dragon Emperor. However, the true Dragon Emperor shook his head in response. "At this moment, all I can remember is that I have two heavenly souls, and each of these souls has walked a broad road." Two heavenly souls? Although the true Dragon Emperor didn't directly answer Lin Dong's question, it once again confirmed something for Lin Dong. Both the true Dragon Emperor and the Sacred Drum Heavenly Sovereign were possessors of two heavenly souls. But generally, a heavenly supreme could only possess one heavenly soul. Could the broad roads mentioned by the true Dragon Emperor be one of the 12 great paths referred to by the Sacred Drum Heavenly Sovereign? To verify this, Lin Dong immediately asked another critical question. "Please allow me to ask one more question, Senior Dragon Emperor." Lin Dong asked the true Dragon Emperor once more. Ask away. "What I can do now is to tell you all that I know," the true Dragon Emperor responded with a hearty laugh, showing that he was a straightforward person in life. "Senior Dragon Emperor, do you recall whether the two broad roads you walked require the use of spiritual energy to cultivate?" Lin Dong asked directly, though he had already braced himself for the worst, that the true Dragon Emperor might not even remember this. However, the true Dragon Emperor's answer filled Lin Dong with joy. "It has nothing to do with spiritual energy. I am certain of that." "Ah, I see. I see." The true Dragon Emperor's response made Lin Dong realize that the two broad roads must indeed be part of the 12 great paths. Compared to these 12 great paths, the blood of the true Dragon Emperor in this dragon space, which could trigger a bloody battle among Earth Supremes, seemed utterly insignificant. The two 12 great paths were the true Dragon Emperor's true legacy. However, as Lin Dong confirmed that the true Dragon Emperor's legacy was tied to the 12 great paths, his expression darkened, as if he had discovered a terrifying truth. In fact, this truth would alter the entire structure of the Great Thousand Worlds. Lin Dong now knew the true reason behind the fall of the Sacred Drum Heavenly Sovereign and the true Dragon Emperor. "Brother Lin, it seems you've come to some realization. Could you share it with us? Even my father, the current Dragon Emperor, doesn't know what the true legacy left by our ancestors is." As Lin Dong seemed to understand something, Long Luzi, who had been watching him, asked with a puzzled expression. "Wait a moment, Dragon Brother. I need to organize my thoughts first." Lin Dong didn't plan to answer Long Luzi's question directly because he had noticed another strange thing. "Senior Dragon Emperor, can you remember whether the broad roads you walked were complete?" Upon hearing Lin Dong's questions, which all centered around the broad roads, Long Luzi looked at his ancestor, and the true Dragon Emperor also stared at Long Luzi. He wasn't sure why Lin Dong was asking these questions, but before the true Dragon Emperor could answer, Long Luzi spoke up, revealing what Lin Dong wanted to know. "The two broad roads walked by our ancestor were incomplete. The reason was that our ancestor didn't have the ability to walk one road to its end, so he used another road to make up for the unfinished part of the first road. This method is called the complementing method of long and short," Long Luzi explained. "I see." After hearing Long Luzi's explanation, Lin Dong sighed deeply. He had asked this question because it was hard to believe that the true Dragon Emperor could walk two broad roads simultaneously. For a talent as extraordinary as the Sacred Drum Heavenly Sovereign, it took an entire lifetime to walk just one Sacred Drum path. If the true Dragon Emperor could walk two roads to their extremes, it would be too exaggerated. "Is that all?" Long Luzi asked Lin Dong. Lin Dong nodded and then said, "Based on my speculation, the true Dragon Emperor's fall is closely tied to those two broad roads." Upon hearing Lin Dong's words, the true Dragon Emperor and Long Luzi exchanged a glance before looking back at Lin Dong. "We already knew that. Did you just figure this out?" "What I mean is, anyone who walks these broad roads will be targeted for elimination by the Extraterritorial Evil Clan," Lin Dong continued. "A year ago, I was fortunate enough to inherit the legacy of the Sacred Drum Heavenly Sovereign, and the path the Sovereign walked was one of these broad roads. This road is well known as the Sacred Drum Technique, but only the Sacred Drum Heavenly Sovereign himself knew that the Sacred Drum Technique was, in fact, the Sacred Drum Path. Is the technique of the sacred drum also a great Tao? Upon hearing this, Long Luzi asked with doubt. He was present when Lin Dong obtained the inheritance of the sacred drum, and based on his knowledge, the technique of the sacred drum was merely one of the most advanced battle formations in the world. He had no idea that the technique of the sacred drum had such a profound origin. It seems that these great Taoists are not limited to the two paths I've walked. Upon hearing Lin Dong's words, the true Dragon King couldn't help but sigh with emotion. His vague memories told him that, in the past, he had believed there were only those two grand paths in the world. There are 12 great Taoists. This was something the Sacred Drum Senior told me before passing away, Lin Dong explained. And based on my guess, the two great Taoists left by the Dragon King Senior are among them. So, what are these 12 great Taoists? Long Luzi, listening intently, asked with great curiosity. If the two grand paths left by their ancestors were part of these 12, then by elimination, they might be able to make a rough guess. However, even if they guessed correctly, it would be of little use, as the paths of the great Tao were still sealed, and they would never obtain the inheritance of the sacred clan. I don't know. The Sacred Drum Senior didn't share that information with me. Lin Dong shook his head, expressing regret. But now, I do know one thing. Everyone who walks on these great Taoists has kept the path they walk a secret from others. Lin Dong continued, from the fact that even the true Dragon King and the true Dragon Clan, one of the most powerful super races, didn't know that the Sacred Drum Heavenly Sovereign practiced a great Tao, to the fact that the Sacred Drum Heavenly Sovereign never mentioned others who walked on different Taoists, I can almost be certain of this. So, in the end, we still can't know what inheritance our ancestors left behind. Long Luzi sighed with disappointment, feeling helpless. While Long Luzi sighed in disappointment, Lin Dong closed his eyes and organized his thoughts. The Sacred Drum Senior fell in battle due to the siege of the Extraterritorial Evil Clan because of the Sacred Drum Tao. The Dragon King Senior also suffered a fatal blow from the Extraterritorial Evil Clan for possessing two great Taoists. From these two events, Lin Dong could vaguely imagine the extermination plan carried out by the Extraterritorial Evil Clan thousands of years ago. At that time, in the Great Thousand Worlds, there were a few but rare Farseers who discovered some heavenly Taoists beyond the path of spiritual energy. The immense power of these Taoists caused these Farseers to abandon their cultivation of spiritual energy and embark on what they considered the Grand Path. However, these practitioners of the great Taoists were unaware that the paths they walked had triggered a critical point in the Extraterritorial Evil Clan, leading them to launch a full-scale attack on the Great Thousand Worlds. Lin Dong even speculated that the Extraterritorial Evil Clan's invasion of the Great Thousand Worlds and the lower dimensions wasn't because of the vast territories of the Great Thousand Worlds.